Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 with Shavi. This is the first time we have ever done a 2-part podcast. So I was just talking to the editors trying to figure out how we're going to make this thing nice and smooth, but we're going to make it happen. So last episode, Shavi basically told us about all the times that she died. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Okay, good. So for those of you that didn't listen to the first episode, go back and listen to the first episode. And the big takeaways for me was that, sometimes life isn't fair. Sometimes crappy stuff happens. Sometimes it leads to some pretty cool stuff. Sometimes we find the answers to mysteries later in life than we want to. And positivity goes a long way. And that's one thing that, like, the big takeaway I took from Shavi last episode was that positivity she has. So for those of you that didn't listen and won't listen, maybe you're too lazy to go back to listen to episode 1. Essentially, Miss Shavi has a heart defect, right? And it causes a situation where her body does not oxygenate its blood appropriately, and that has to be monitored. And there's really no good devices. There's really no good portable, especially machines that do this, something that you can live like a fairly normal life in. So we know that you're highly educated. You came from, a background in some computer science, some technology, stuff like that. And now you've got this medical issue that you want to find a solution for. And we already hinted at the fact that you founded a company called Oxywear. So let's talk about this product. Explain exactly how you came up with this idea for Oxywear. Not the purpose, we know the purpose, but the idea for the product itself.
Yeah, so something like that raised when I had the cardiac issue at Georgetown was the doctors were questioning me like whether you should stay alone, whether you should consider changing the school. And they were literally asking me to go back to how everything was before. And I was not ready to do that. So I went and bought few wearables. I bought like wrist wearables that's available in the market, so that I can see my heart rate and everything. And I went to the doctor and said, I can live alone. I have a device now. And then he said, okay, your problem is not your heart rate. Your problem is your oxygen levels. And for people with pulmonary hypertension, your body oxygen levels drop, but you don't physically feel it. That's the problem here. So I said, okay, I have finger cuff. He said, yeah, you already had a finger cuff, but you still didn't know it, because unless you physically feel it, you don't wear it and check. So that's your problem. So as a joke, then I told him, okay, then maybe let's do something. Let's make something. Because I wanted to live alone. I didn't want to move back with my sister and, go back to zero. And then he was laughing and he's like, what do you mean? I said, just like a fire alarm. You sense the fire smoke, you call 911. And then he was like, if anyone can do it, it's you. So do it and I will help you. So we started it off as a joke, like, so that I don't have to move to my sister's and I can still live alone and still study at Georgetown.
Yeah, so this was all an attempt for independence, essentially, because what they're saying is, since we can't monitor your status, it's unsafe. So that was your solution, is let's make something that consistently monitors this situation, not heart rate, but actual, oxygen levels, and something, I guess, that has some sort of communication component. You're talking about a fire alarm, so something that communicates and can sound the alarm, so to speak. So that's all well and good, right? You have a tech background. You've now got, actual medical personnel that you're joking about this with. But how do you actually go about creating a concept? I know it's a long step to creating the product, but creating a concept of, well, this may actually work. So tell me about that.
Yeah, that was really tough, because now the thing was, I was already a workaholic. I was doing about 4 jobs in school, and then I was doing my master's. I was cramping for time. So when I was studying at Georgetown, the program I did, it's an interdisciplinary program where you can literally pick whatever you want to study and you can study, and there's options that you can do your own independent studies. So I went and asked them, I told them, the program director at my program at Georgetown CCT, like, okay, I have this crazy idea. Can I do it as an independent study? And they was like, explain it to me. I said, my doctors doesn't allow me to stay alone. So I want to make this wearable on the ear to monitor my body oxygen levels and then warn me so that I can get the help in time. So then I asked the doctor, okay, what's the best place to measure oxygen other than the finger? And then he was like, ear is the best place, not the finger. The ear is the best place. I was like, okay, fine. So let's do a earring. That's how I said. So then I went and I spoke to my professor who I did all my tech and development work with. And then he was like, I love crazy ideas. Let's do this. So he became my advisor. And then one of the jobs I was doing at Georgetown was working as a makerspace, the space coordinator. So because of that, what I did was, while I was at Makerspace, I started working on it because there's electronics corner. And first what I did was I had no clue how to do this. I'm software, I'm not an electronics person. But I have played around with Arduinos. So I researched on different sensors, what I have to use. And then, so that's what I was supposed to do. My professor was not helping. He said, you need to, first thing is you need to research on what sensors are needed, how do you do this, what are the additional stuff you need to warn what you need, all the parts you need to assemble this, and then do the big overall thing to see whether it works on the ear. And then I got everything, and then I went and studied different electronics like Texas Instrument journals and watched YouTube videos and did so much research to figure out how do I put this together.
So what's interesting about this is, there's a lot of people in the e-commerce space that have an idea. This is something that needs to happen. Here's a function we need to fulfill, but people just don't know the next step. Like, I'm not an inventor. I'm not an electronics, engineer, electrical engineer. I don't know anything, but it sounds like, for you, the solution was just to start researching the crap out of it, right? YouTube videos, Google this thing, and then started utilizing these makerspace, right? These makerspace people. And it's interesting in this world, there are so many people out there that are hobbyists or that are learning or they're students or they're interns that can do this stuff. And for me, there's a lot of things I don't know how to make, but I'm finding out there's huge networks of people that will work with me a lot of times for free to at least put prototypes together, which is interesting. So it reduces that barrier to entry that so many of us think we have.
Yeah, because it's I had to the sensors are so tiny. I burned about good $1,000 worth sensors trying to solder the wires into that. And I remember then I got help from the other people who were literally actually engineers. And I'm like, can you help me to solder this? And then I was holding the wires for them to solder. And a lot of people, and then I had no idea how to do such small 3D printing. And then I got a friend to come in who does this other a sensor, that a swallowable pill that scans the digestive system. So he prints those capsules. So because of that, I called him and I asked, can you spend a weekend with me and teach me how to 3D print on the foam printer? And then I learned from him how to do the modeling and then send it to the printer, the printing, all that. And then so I literally learned from everyone who's around. And I was like, if I had these in 2000, Jesus, if I had all these resources, it would have been so awesome.
Yep.
Because everything is online. You can learn everything literally if you spend time on it. So even the code.
Even the coding, yeah. So you've put together a prototype that worked, right? It would record your accurate blood oxygen levels, right? But I know that there are other things that you had to put in this, a communication piece. It had to be able to talk. It had to be, a smart device. Yeah. But what was the next step once you determined, hey, this thing actually works? What was the next big step that you had to take to start refining this?
So then after that, what happens? So initially, actually, I did it, like I said, for myself, right? And then at Georgetown, they have this Ted Leonsis Family Entrepreneurship Prize. Until this, I had not thought about a startup at all. I did this just to prove my doctor that I can live alone.
Oh, so this wasn't even a business plan. Now that you've created the prototype, you decided, oh, this could actually be a business.
Yeah. So then only my makerspace manager was like, normally they had it only for business school and they opened it to the whole campus. So he was like, okay, no one from the makerspace has ever won a prize. I'm nominating you. I have 2 hours to submit the application because they take application through nominations. And then he was like, what's your company name? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, put a name for this. And so we wrote all the names. And then I said, it's oxygen and it's wearable. So, and oxygen is O2, right? So we said OxiWear. So that was the first name. So for that pitch, he said, okay, I'm putting it as OxiWear then. So that was what we submitted the application as. And then I pitched, so 21st was that, 28th was the bark tank. And then at the bark tank, I won the first prize and the People's Choice both again. So in total, I got $40,500. So with that money, then what I did was I first because I was an international student. So until I finished studying, I couldn't incorporate the company because I'm not allowed to work. But I was graduating that December. So I waited like until December until I got my OPT. And then just as I got it, I wanted to like incorporate it, but then I didn't know how to do it. So then next to Georgetown, there's an incubator called Halcyon incubator in DC. So then from the people, so I talk to everyone, I make friends very easily. So from the first page, that judge who helped me, he introduced me to Halcyon, the current incubator people. And then I met them and I started going there, like making friends with them. Because I graduated, so they were still there. And whatever the way I can help them with my development skills and all, I helped them and all that. So I was hanging out there. And then one of the cohort members, like one of the startup fellows, what they did was they introduced me to Cooley, the law firm. And then Cooley got me in as a pro bono client.
Let me back up for a second. So you just came up with a good idea. You landed in a position where you didn't even think you were going to turn this into a business. You were able to pitch this in competitions where you raised prize money, and then an incubator was able to connect you, which gives you a workspace and networks, connected you to a law firm who took you on as a pro bono, basically free client, who I assume helped you with the business structure and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. So then they helped me to first incorporate because they knew I can't do it until I get the OPT.
Sure.
So just as I got the OPT, I incorporated the company. And then they started working with me on because before the team, what I was worried about is, okay, I need to get this whole concept and everything patented before I put it out.
Yeah. So
they helped me with the whole patent, and we filed a provisional patent for the utility, and then we filed design patents.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, I'll give you the brief rundown. A design patent and a utility patent are two very different things. A design patent is like the shape or a look, like the old school Coke bottles were design patented, but the function of, a glass bottle holding a Coke, that wasn't patented. That would have been utility. So by filing for a utility, basically, they're locking in the ability to make a wearable device on your ear that performs this function. And the design patent means nobody can knock off basically the aesthetics and the look of it. And a provisional patent is just a placeholder to get started, right? So you filed for all three of these things, which is the best protection you can get.
Yeah. So then, so we filed a provisional for all wireless vital monitoring done on the earlobe and the communications done around it.
So you've got a little bit of money, you're getting a business founded, you've got some protection, but now you need to go to the next step, right? The next step is refining the design, making sure everything works. And now I assume that in your journey, you had to enlist some pretty serious designers, right? And some engineering. So give us like the high level of the next step. And let me ask you this, is the final version of this thing done yet?
Yeah, we have the cosmetic version now.
Okay, so you have it finished. So how did you go from, all right, you've got patents, you've got a business now, to finished product?
So so what I said was, so then before I started at Halcyon itself, I wanted to get an engineer. That was my first priority. I wanted to get an engineer who understands, because I knew what is needed and the logic behind it.
Yeah,
Because I had to pay them.
so you went through this process, and I'm assuming you found an engineer.
Yes. So then at Halcyon, when I got into the incubator, I met through my other fellows in the cohort. I got introduced to my current CTO, George, and then Ben, who's my lead product designer. So by February, they did this.
Oh, nice. So for those of you that don't see the video, this is like an amazing little device. It's tiny, it's sleek. It looks like something Apple would make, right? And it comes in like a nice case. Like, this thing is awesome.
Yeah, it's a wireless charging port.
It's kind of like the AirPods, right? Like a wireless charging port. So you spent a year and a half coming up with this idea,
trying to get the team,
and putting the team together. And as soon as you got the right people together, they whipped up an amazing finished product, right? Which is a valuable lesson. One, hurry up and outsource as fast as you can, but also, just because something starts slow doesn't mean it's going to continue to be slow. Like, it's possible this thing could ramp up very, very quickly. You know, it kind of hit that inflection point.
After we got this done, when I knew, okay, this is possible, then I started looking for a developer, and I hired a developer. My designer is based in San Francisco. And then at that time, they had the Startup Grind Global Conference. So I took that chance, flew to San Francisco, because I wanted to raise money there. Because we were using this 40,000 for all this work.
Let me back up and just recap this. Tell me if this is correct. You haven't really made any money on this thing, right? But this is extremely expensive. No. So you're hiring people. Yeah, you're hiring people that probably are working for some sort of equity in this future business, I suspect, right? Because you're not paying these super high level folks. The $45,000 isn't going to go very far, but you got that money from a contest. You've got basically scholarships through incubators. You've got people on your advisory board that are working for you. You've got employees that are working for equity. Like, this is amazing. So now you've got this business that really isn't worth anything because there's no revenue, but you've got the finished product. Right? Yeah. And you've done all of that, but now it's time to hit it hard, and it's time to actually grow this thing into a business. So, what is kind of the next step in your journey from there? Like, turning it into a business.
The legal work and everything was really expensive, and they were like costing, and then the hardware, like getting the stuff we need and printing the prototypes.
Yeah.
And they were so expensive. You know how it is when you're a female and raising money, and it's only no revenue. It's hardware, right? So we can't show them the working model, because on the Linux it works, but it's not connected to the mobile application yet. So they can see the output. It was tough, like getting the term sheets, because people were negotiating the price. Like, the lawyers, everyone checked the value and set the cap on the term sheets, everything, but it was hard. So, and I said, will you join as a board member? He said, I don't have time for all these board member things, but I'll join you as an advisory board member. I'll help you with the advising. And you can write to me anytime, and you can put my photograph on your website, and you will get more investors coming in. And I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
And the next month, he said he's putting his personal money, and he invested. And then I started the Friends and Family Round. So then we started getting money, and then I flew to San Francisco. So at the right in February, I flew to, just before the whole Corona thing started, I flew to San Francisco. Then I met my designer there. And then, because now we started dressing, I attended the Startup Grind to see whether I can find some Silicon Valley investors. And then from there, so I met a Japanese investor. I literally spoke to him for 6 hours, 2 days. So 12 hours in total. And then he was like, okay, send me the term sheets. I'll be back in Tokyo in 1 week's time. and then I'll get the paperwork done and I will invest. And I liked them because they were investing for the cause.
Sure.
So I knew we are all on the same mission.
So you've got the final version of this thing designed, but you're still not up and running yet, correct? Because
No.
well, you've got to raise more money and put these things into full production, correct?
Yeah. And then the best part was it's the partnerships we made. I met Katie Ledecky's brother, Michael Ledecky. He helped me with as an advisor now. And then through him, I got introduced to some coaches of US Olympics. And something I learned from them is that even for athletes, they need it.
Yeah, so it's not just somebody with a medical condition. It can be for sports optimization and things like that, which is huge.
Yeah, for performance monitoring and for high altitude training, for all those, they need it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. To kind of wrap up the story, you've got the final production round being finished. You're raising money to go to full production. Then you're going to take this thing to the market. And with a medical device, there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can sell them independently. You can sell them through medical professionals, things like that. But looking back at this journey, this has been long. Like you've been working on this product for nearly 2 years now, right? Maybe more than that. What convinced you that this was such a good idea that it was worth continuing fighting to make it happen? Because this didn't just happen overnight. This has been a serious endeavor. So how were you convinced that it was worth doing?
There are times I keep asking myself, are you crazy? What are you doing? Especially when my bank balance goes to zero and I have to call my dad for money.
Yep.
And because I had an offer from Deloitte, I said no to that. Just as I graduated, I got an offer from Deloitte, and I could have got that job and would have been an awesome package. And I said no to that, and I started this, and here I am with just sometimes $10 balance in my account, and I keep asking, are you out of your mind? What are you doing? And especially like when I can't pay my team, I feel more burdened.
Yep.
And because people are depending on me, it's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
So, but then I get these emails and messages on social media from pulmonary hypertension patients saying, thank you so much for doing this for us. And I can't wait to have this device. I will be able to step out and do normal things and without having to worry about oxygen. And people reaching out and sending messages, and then like you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's the struggle. The silver lining is there. Just hang on.
It's funny. Like as entrepreneurs, even like you're going around talking to venture capitalists and you're raising money and you've got pitch decks. Like most of the world assumes, entrepreneurs all have money. Like, she's invented this thing. She's got a patent on this thing. It may be years before you get the first dollar from that, right?
No,
and every time you
depend on my dad, I feel embarrassed.
Yeah, and every time that you bring, a dollar in, it turns right back out. And
the money comes in, especially because it's hardware.
Yeah,
we have
it goes
to spend.
Right back out.
It comes in, it goes back. It's like just reflecting light.
Well, I think it's interesting. You said, there's times when you have $10 in your bank account. That's like one of the points that's interesting is, folks that create a product, that create a brand, that create a company, it's not overnight. It's not instant. And you have to put in the dues. You have to spend time, practicing pitches. You have to spend time working on PowerPoint presentations. You have to spend time trying to learn to solder products if you're not an engineer,
Yeah.
But it's going to be worth it, I think.
Especially when you're raising money. Now I literally, I must have pitched to about good 20 or 30 plus investors now.
So when is this thing actually going to hit the market now?
So we are going as two different ones. We are going as a consumer product and as a medical product.
Okay.
Because we can go as a fitness and aviation, like fitness device, like normal Fitbit and everything.
Yep.
So we are planning to go out as a fitness device because we developed a performance monitoring dashboard for athletes. So our market is not the Apple Fitbit client. Our market is who needs medical grade, most accurate oxygen readings and continuous. So our market is completely different. We are not competing with them. We are trying to give what they can't give.
Sure.
And so we will be going out as a consumer product so that we can sell the devices to patients who can afford to purchase it, and also to sell it to the teams. And we are currently testing the UI with the Washington Wizards fitness coach.
Nice.
And he also connected us with the Boston Celtics head coach. So
That's amazing.
we are doing the UX testing with them, and then Naveen from Wizard said he will do the beta testing on the device as well to help us. So we want to get the consumer one out. So until we do the FDA, then we will be making revenue. At least then we will have some money.
So we're still looking at a year away, probably.
By June, we should be able to put out the consumer version.
6 months. 6 months to launch.
Yeah, 6 months.
That's amazing.
6 months, we just need to hang out.
Yep.
And then, but parallelly, we are doing the FDA 510K work.
Yeah.
So we partnered with Method Sense from California, and then with them, we are working on the 510K pre-submissions and everything. And then parallelly, we are working on the medical level. So because then whoever can't afford it can get it prescribed and get it. And plus, the hospitals are interested in using it for the 6-minute walk test. And then also for pediatric use and to discharge patients for remote patient monitoring. So we are currently developing, with the requests we received from the hospitals, a remote patient monitoring application. So our revenue will actually come from those SaaS models, the data licensing and the tech licensing. So because what I started this to help patients. So I don't want to tax the patients. So we will be giving this in a way that they can afford. So it's a one-time pay, they will have the device, but we will make money from the corporate by licensing. So and then because my mission is saving lives. I started this not for me to become a billionaire, but I know investors want to make money. So I need to figure out how to make money for them, but at the same time, save people and help them.
So it sounds like a win-win. You're going to help people.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
You're going to solve a problem that you struggled with all your life and still struggle with, and hopefully make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, and then also like one thing I have in mind is I want to do it formally to create like a NGO branch called OxyCare under Oxywear, where people can actually donate a device.
Yep.
For whoever, like, there are people like the medical expenses in US is, I know how bad it is. So for whoever can't afford it, then someone can donate it.
That's amazing.
Like you can match, like we do that, like we did it, we ran an Indigo campaign with that, we did it. So whoever donates, they donate, and then we match it and we connect and say, your device was donated to this, assigned to this patient, and when they receive it, we will get you. So it's like a matching thing. Someone can donate a device.
Yep. So let me just tell you, this has been one of the more interesting interviews that I've ever done, just from your story and how this led into everything, and kind of, this medical issue from a child all the way to having to learn how to run a business, how to raise money, how to engineer, how to design, how to utilize resources. It's been amazing. So for those of you that are interested to follow the rest of this path as this thing goes to market, especially on the consumer line, the website is Oxywear, Oxywear. Make sure to check it out. They've got a really cool website up right now, and I'm sure as this thing goes to market, I myself will be looking at how the marketing is done, because I'm going to be extremely interested how this is done, especially with some big names like the NBA and people like that. So Shavi, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for sharing this. Hopefully this is inspirational, because there's so many people listening to this that have stories and that have, purposes. They want to be able to help people, or they want to be able to accomplish something. And they need to know that it's not overnight, but it's worth doing. Sometimes it seems like it takes forever, and sometimes you're going to have $10 in your bank account, and sometimes you've got to figure out how to use resources that you're not familiar with and just learn along the way. So I personally am inspired by this. I'm sure our listeners are too. So thank you very much for being on, and good luck with the rest of your fundraising and your launch later to 2021. All right, guys, we've wrapped up another episode now. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for all the support you give us. If you would drop a review in whatever podcast platform you're listening to, drop us a thumbs up on YouTube, and we will see you guys on the next episode.